Continuing, chapter 1, the original biblical Hebrew Israelites. The Bible is the main historical source of the original Hebrew Israelites. In the process of time, the Hebrews were later referred to as Israelites and later as Jews. This will be dealt with later in more detail. It is imperative that the reader do research on basic, then it's using the word African world history, which we are not African, which has not been slated to show the white European, but I guess he's using African to distinguish, so-called black and so-called white and so-called, the Khazarians from the actual real Jews. I'm going to repeat that on basic African world history, which has not been slated to show the white European civilization as the first civilization. One who is well versed in ancient history will certainly be able to readily understand to which ethnic group the Bible refers, because history has been handed down to us mainly from the aforementioned point of view. A false picture of human history has prevailed over the centuries. The Bible gives reliable evidence of the ancestry of the ancient Hebrew Israelites and prophets. The biblical history of the ancient black Salakia. The biblical history of the Hebrews begins in Genesis 11 and 10, which I'm going to go get. Well, I think I just read it. No, that was 12. It says Genesis 11, verse 10. And it's going into the generations of Shem, where the genealogy of Shem is recorded and continues throughout the entire Old Testament. And that's how you get, the Israelites. Abraham, the first Hebrew, Genesis 14 and 13, which I'll get real quick. Has escaped and told Abram the Hebrew. Say Abram the Hebrew, one from beyond the destiny. So let me highlight that. So, and there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, where he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, and the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. Was a descendant of Shem. So Abraham was a descendant of Shem. Nimrod, the grandson of Ham, founded the city in which Abraham was born, named which is in the country of Chaldea, known also as Mesopotamia, of which Babylon was the capital. The ancestry of the Israelites stemmed from Abraham, who was a man of color. We know that Abraham was brown or had melanin. It's using the word black, but had melanin because he was born in a city founded by the black, or so-called black Nimrod, the grandson of Ham. And you could look that up in Genesis. I'll just get it. Genesis 10 and 8 through 10. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, and beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Babel mentioned in verse 10 is Babylon. The Bible dictionary defines Ham, Cush, and Nimrod as black men, so-called black men. The ancient name for Egypt is Mizraim. See biblical or secular dictionary or encyclopedia. And that's why, like I said, I went into this book because pretty much, it's on point with everything, we've been taught by our elders and apostles. The 12th chapter of Genesis records the call of Abraham, which I just went into 12 and 13. 12 and 3, Salakia. It was 12 and 1, rather. So I read that from the get-go. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob, and Jacob was the father of the 12 sons from whom came the children of Israel. Abraham was commanded by Yahweh to go into the land of Canaan. The man Canaan, according to Genesis 10 and 6, was one of the four sons of Ham. So I'm going to get that. Genesis 10 and 6. As the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Canaan. It was one of the four sons of Ham and was the father of the Canaanite nation. Therefore, the Canaanites were a so-called black nation of people. According to the 10th chapter of Genesis, the Egyptians were descended from Ham. They were a Hamitic people of color. Nearly 600 years later, Moses was born in Egypt. During that time, so-called black Egyptians enslaved black Israelites. Moses had to be of a so-called black race because he spent 40 years in Pharaoh's palace among the so-called black Egyptians, passing as Pharaoh's grandson. In order for him to have passed as a Pharaoh's grandson, he had to have also looked like the Egyptians among whom he lived. And, that's how, they go into, Joseph and Mary had to be of color. The Messiah had to be of color because you got to remember they ran to Egypt when Herod was trying to kill, the Messiah, and they were able to blend in because they looked like those people because they had melanin. Continuing. In order for him to have passed, I read that already. Also see Exodus 2:8, chapter 2, verses 18 and 19, where the people refer to Moses as an Egyptian. Just get it for edification's sake. 18 and 19. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. Where is he? And that was when Moses went to Midian. One of the signs that Yahweh gave to Moses was when he turned his hand white. Exodus 4, verses 6 and 7. And the one returned, put now thy hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Leprous as snow. Snow, sheleg. Snow, probably from its whiteness. Enough said, I ain't gonna go into it no more. Had he been of the white race, or so-called white race, what would have been the miracle of his hand turning white? The picture to be drawn from that incident is that the hand of a so-called black man is turned white. Yahushua was also black, or so-called black, although the white religious institutions have portrayed him as so-called white. Consider the following references from the New Testament. When Yahushua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I am, Son of Man, am? Salaki, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say thou art John the Baptist, some say Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. It's quoting Matthew 16, verses 13 and 14. Here Yahushua was compared with all of the prophets of old. The foregoing information substantiates that the Israelites and prophets of the Bible were of the black, so-called black race. All of them were descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's got a subtitle, Enslavement. Jacob, his 11 sons and their families, 66 in number, all migrated from Canaan to Egypt with Jacob. His son Joseph was already in Egypt, as he had been sold into the hands of Ishmaelites by his brothers, who were jealous of his father's love for him. Joseph was highly favored by the Pharaoh of Egypt, and he was appointed to the position of overseer over his house and all the land in Egypt. Subsequently, the children of Israel became a nation of slaves to the Egyptians. A new Pharaoh was ruling who did not show patronage to Joseph and his people as had the previous Pharaoh. As the children of Israel began to rapidly multiply, the new Pharaoh felt threatened, and as a result, the Egyptians enslaved the black Israelites. Moses, a Hebrew prophet, led the Israelites out of Egypt into the wilderness. When they reached Mount Sinai, they were taught good moral laws and statutes by Moses. The divine commission which Moses gave them was revealed by Almighty Yahweh, creator of the universe. Yahweh's chosen people. Hebrew Israelites were Yahweh's original chosen people. They were chosen to teach the true message of salvation, to be an example of good moral conduct to the people of the world. Yahweh chose the children of Israel because they were the offspring of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were chosen from among the heathens who practiced idolatry and were taught the truth about the belief in one power. All the nations surrounding ancient Israel were idolatrous. Although their idolatry assumed different forms, the early the early Semites of Mesopotamia worshipped mountains, spring trees, and blocks of stone in which the deity was supposed to be in some sense incarnate. And he's quoting Judges 6, 25. And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it. So the grove was like a high place, it was like an altar. And build an altar unto the Lord thy power unto the top of this rock in the order place. And take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. Well, it's reading. It's, Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was because he feared his father's household and the men of the city that he could not do it by day, and he did it by night. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it, and the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. Verse 29, they said one to another, Who have done this thing? And when they inquired or asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, have done this thing. Then the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, Will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death whilst it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. So he's saying if he really is God, let him, let him punish, the person that did it. Verse 32, therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him. We'll highlight it. Against him because he had thrown down his altar. Um, the religion of the Egyptians centered mostly about the veneration of the sun of the Nile as sources of life. They also had a number of sacred animals: the bull, the cow, the cat, the baboon, the crocodile, etc. Some of the deities had human bodies and animal heads. Among the Canaanites, religion took on a very barbarous character. The chief gods were personifications of life and fertility. The gods had no moral character whatsoever, and worship of them carried with it demoralizing practices, including child sacrifice, prostitution, and snake worshiping. Human and animal images of the deities were worshipped. The Israelites, on succeeding to the land, were commanded to destroy these idols. Then they bring examples of Exodus 23 and 24, Exodus 34 and 37, Salakia 34, 13, Numbers 33, verse 52, Deuteronomy 7 and 5. Although the children of Israel were chosen to teach and be an example of good moral conduct to the people of the world, they were a rebellious nation. Their misconduct under Moses' leadership is described in many biblical passages. Yahweh speaking through the prophet Ezekiel depicts Israel's behavior in this manner. And it's going to give an example of how stiff-necked, hard-headed Israel really is. Ezekiel 20. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt and brought them into the wilderness. So that's Most High talking about the children and Israel. And I gave them my statutes and showed them my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. Verse 12, moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord and sanctify them. Verse 13, but the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They walked not in my statutes. They despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them. Verse 14, but I wrought for my name's sake that it should not be polluted before the heathen in whose sight I brought them out. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Verse 16, because they despised my judgments and walked not in my statutes, and polluted my Sabbaths for their heart, went after their idols. Nevertheless, my eyes spared them from destroying them, neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness. And he hasn't still made an end of us today. Verse 18, but I said unto their children in the wilderness, walk ye not in the statutes of your fathers, neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols. Verse 19, I am the Lord your power. Walk in my statutes, keep my judgments, and do them. Verse 20, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your power. But I really wanted Salakia, stiff neck. What is that? Jeremiah 4:22. You see multiple examples of the stiff necked people, but what's that? Sadish. It's in the end. I know it's in Jeremiah. How long shall I see the standard and hear the sound of the trumpet? For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Scottish. And when you go to this word Scottish, Sakal, fool, foolish, stupid children, and they have not understood. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. And that's, our people, Continuing, because of disobedience, Yahweh scattered the children of Israel throughout different parts of the world, as foretold in prophecies of the Holy Scriptures. This will be discussed under the chapter, Salaki, under the chapter entitled Periods of Captivity. We see evidence of Yahweh's wrath and tragedies which people encounter daily because of sin and disobedience. Mankind's greatest need is to endeavor to live a spiritual life by centering his thoughts on a higher spiritual source, Yahweh. And just to interject real quick, it said we see evidence of Yahweh's wrath. And I just did a video yesterday about, what's going on in California. And I heard Elder Malcolm was speaking on that, what I mean? And he was like, he was using scriptures. I used some, but he was using Isaiah 30 and 30. And he was talking about how that fire was just overtaking people, a devouring fire, you know what I mean? And that's the Most High's wrath. I just thought it was fitting that this book is so old, and then the video I did, and then the video that Elder Malcolm did. I mean, that's just the spirit movement. You know what I mean? Even with this book that's from 1982, so that you take time to think about it, 92, 2002, 2012, this book is over like 36 years old. Yet still, though, things are still pertinent to this day. Uh, I'm gonna read that mankind's greatest need is to endeavor to live a spiritual life by centering his thoughts on a higher spiritual source, Yahweh, and letting this spiritual source manifest itself in and through him. It is an area of divine spiritual law that all of the mysteries lie. This universal spiritual law applies to all the people of the world. The basic moral laws are summarized in the Ten Commandments, as recorded in Exodus 23 and 17. But that's not true. At the end of the day, the laws and statutes and commandments were given to the Israelites. So those are the only people that could truly sin. When you go into the word sin, what is sin? Sin is transgression of the law. And I'm going to get that real quick, and I'm going to stop. Salakia. There you go. First John 3 and 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgressive also the law. Transgressive. Poeo. To make with the names of things to make, to produce, construct, form, fashion, to be authors of, to make, ready, to prepare, produce, to shoot forth, to acquire, to provide a thing for oneself, to make out of something, render one anything. Maybe I ain't reading the right thing. Transgression. The condition of without law because ignorant of it. Because the condition of without law, A, because ignorant of it, B, because of violating it. 2, contempt and violation of law, iniquity, wickedness. So with that, I'm going to stop and continue.